Excellent. Well, good morning. My name is Jesse Sladek. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this combined webinar event with myself and Lieutenant General retired Ken Keene. A very brief intro of me. I'm the Chief of Staff for Sales at Elastic, a SaaS, a cloud SaaS company focused on data and a variety of different use cases. Today, we're going to cover three main areas. Number one, we're going to talk to Ken Keene about leadership. He's got a lot of experience in that area. He's going to share some of his lessons with us. Number two, we're going to hear about some best practices for veterans who are going through or approaching the transition to civilian life. And then lastly, we're going to leave you with some resources that you can either use yourself or share with your network to help veterans who are approaching the transition or who have already transitioned boost their career. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the main event of this webinar, Lieutenant General retired Ken Keene. It's honestly a humongous pleasure for me to be speaking with you today, General Keene. You might not know this, but I was first introduced to you in 2008. Now that wasn't actually in person. I was a candidate at the Ranger orientation program at Fort Benning, so I had to memorize a bunch of different things, and your name was one that I had to memorize. Not only because you were the 11th Colonel of the 75th Ranger Regiment, but you're also in the Ranger Hall of Fame. You know, Ken has had an amazing military career. He's one of the only people that I know who has a tan beret and a green beret. Served at command within multiple levels of the military, and served around the world. One of the most impactful missions that Ken led was the rescue effort in Haiti in 2010, following the devastating earthquake that took place there. So coordinating a multinational coalition of countries and organizations to bring relief to that country, and it was huge. Ken is an expert leader. He's a humble man, and frankly, one of my personal heroes. Ken, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, I thought it might be kind of fun to go back in time a little bit and hear a funny story about Lieutenant Ken Keene.
Well, there's probably a lot of funny stories about Lieutenant and Colonel Ken Keene, I guess. But a funny story that comes to mind, that at least was funny at the time, certainly to my wife, is after, as a first lieutenant, I graduated from the Special Forces Officer course at Fort Bragg in December 1977. I was given orders to the Republic of Panama. And of course, being a new Special Forces lieutenant, adventurous, wanting to do exciting things, having recently graduated from the Portuguese language school and realizing I was going to a Spanish-speaking country, to say, okay, well, I can just learn a few Spanish words and use my Portuguese to be just fine. I decided that my wife and I, we decided to drive from Fort Bragg, North Carolina to Panama. And we had a couple of weeks to do so. It looked like obviously doable. We didn't do too much research. That was obviously before GPS and Google Maps and all that kind of stuff. So we took out, our maps and stuff and headed through Texas, through Mexico and Central America. And so in this adventure, of course, we wanted to explore Mexico and Central America. And along the way, I was trying my best to use my newly acquired language skills and thinking Portuguese was close enough to Spanish that I could pick it up on the way and get by. Well, along the way, I was we were stopping at various places to eat, and basically we had decided that we were going to stop at a McDonald's in every country, just as a part of our trip. And so I was in Guatemala, and I went into a McDonald's and trying to use my best Kentucky accented Spanish. I asked for two Cokes, and the young Guatemalan said, "Doce Cokes," and I said, "Si, yes." So she brings me 12 Cokes, and so in Portuguese, two is doce, and in Spanish, 12 is doce. So, needless to say, I realized that I had a ways to go in my language skills to be effective SS officer. Of course, she didn't let me forget that for a long time. So um, I was much more careful along the way. We had a great time. We didn't. I doubt you could do that today very safely, but it was a great trip.
Yeah, that's a heck of a road trip from Fort Bragg down to Panama. That's a long drive.
Yeah, and another story as we went through the different immigration border crossings. The first one I went through after passing through Texas on the border with Guatemala and Mexico, the guard came up to me and said, "Do you?" And of course in Spanish, "Do you have anything for me?" And again, my Spanish was a little lacked to be desired, to say the least. And I said, "No, here's my passports. I really don't have anything else." And he said, "Are you sure you don't have anything for me?" And I said, we were in a Vegas station wagon, to give you an idea. So we were trying to obviously pick up a few souvenirs along the way. And he said, "Well, okay, you need to go to that line over there, and they will search your car for you." And I got over there, and the guy said, "Too bad you didn't have anything for him. We're going to take you. We're going to have you get everything out of the car, and we'll search everything you've got." And so I said, "Okay." Now, so when we got to the next border crossing, the guy, same thing. "Do you have anything for me?" So I slipped in my passport with a $5 bill, and he said, "Go right on."
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, let's hop in. General Keane, you've had so many reps at challenging leadership situations in a variety of different roles. What's the most challenging leadership situation that you faced, and why? And what did you lean on to get you through that?
Well, as you mentioned it in your opening, I think obviously there have been a lot of challenges, as we all have through our military careers in combat and in peacetime. But in your opening, you mentioned that I was uh, participated in the response to the earthquake in Haiti in 12 January 2010. I just happened to be in Haiti on the day of the earthquake, and I think for a variety of reasons, that certainly was one of the more challenging um, positions that I held, leading the Joint Task Force Haiti at the time. It ended up being a little over 22,000 servicemen and women responding in the aftermath of the earthquake, where you had over 220,000 people killed and over 300,000 people injured. And really, we weren't leading the effort for the United States. So we were supporting the United States Agency for International Development, and we weren't responsible and in charge of everything, but we were really had the most resources, and we needed to work very closely together with the international community to do that. I think it was very challenging dealing with the human side of that disaster, and with people and the Haitians who had lost literally everything. But the thing that made the most impact on me was to see our servicemen and women literally being deployed into Haiti. Some of them from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the Ready Alert Brigade came out of the 82nd, and they had just returned from Iraq 3 weeks prior to this. Now, the earthquake, of course, they just got back before Christmas, so they had been many of them, they'd gone on leave, and they were coming back off leave literally days before this earthquake occurred, and they were alerted and immediately deployed. And so go from a sort of a high intensity combat environment to immediately turning to come to that environment was challenging. But what really impressed me was how they the leaders and particularly the paratroopers and Marines and others who deployed readily adapted to the environment of the humanitarian assistance to sort of deliver humanitarian assistance through the outreach of an open hand versus through the barrel of a gun, and to do so with the empathy and compassion for the people that they were delivering this aid to, and to be open to working with anybody that would that was there doing the same. So I think that had a tremendous impact on me. I lost a member of my team in the earthquake in the immediate aftermath. Lieutenant Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Ken Borland was killed. He was in a hotel that collapsed, obviously we all had to deal with losses, as we all too often have to do in the military, and trying to pull the team together to do that. I think was probably certainly one of the things that I was challenged with the most.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing with us about that. It's hard to imagine what that landscape would have looked like with 200,000 people dead, 300,000 injured, 22,000 service members in Haiti. That must have just been unreal, and there must have just been like so many things to do. How did you prioritize and delegate and see that mission through to completion, given it's not like the U.S. was in charge. The U.S. might have been best positioned to lead and coordinate, but we weren't like in charge per se. How did you lead through that?
Well, as we often talked about in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, as we started out to do this, it was sort of like building an airplane while in flight. That commercial that you see, we had to deliver life-saving aid in the immediacy of the earthquake events, but at the same time, we needed to develop a plan, a more coherent plan, and pull together and try to bring the forces in that we needed, and work with others who had tremendous capability in a lot of ways. So it was one of the things, recognizing that it wasn't about command and control, the aspect that we're very good at in the military and have all our systems that are designed to do that very well. It was more about sort of the other three C's that I would refer to. It was about collaborating, cooperating, and communicating with a lot of partners in Haiti that had capability, non-government organizations, nonprofit organizations, other government organizations that were coming in, other militaries that we had no authority over directly to tell what to do, but we wanted to work with them. So it was really in the mindset of whether it was a company commander or battalion commander or whatever level in the space that they were working, to reach out to partners to say, hey, how can we best effectively work together? And one of the things, a young paratrooper captain from the 82nd, I said, the systems we have aren't helping us very well here in terms of our classified systems to put up a command and control network. Can we develop a non-classified common operating picture to show everything that we're doing and where we're doing it? And so he was a communications officer, so he had a lot of IT background. And he said, sir, if you can get me some experts from Google to come down and help us, we could build a common operating picture on Google Earth and the mapping. And then if they would take a shot at least once a week to update where we've got everything, we could have anyone with a phone that's connected to the network see our pictures. And so we were able to do that, working with our U.S. Southern Command to get Google to sit down the technicians to help us put all that together. And he developed that in virtually a week's time. And it was real. And so you go into our operations centers and logistics and centers, you would see this Google map up, and it would show an icon that was a displaced persons camp and all the data we were collecting, or a food distribution point, and water distribution point, or locations of NGO headquarters and what they were doing, or our military headquarters, and we would share that with a lot of folks.
I love it, and just like for the audience, something like that might sound obvious, and it's like, well, of course we would do something like that, but the truth is the bureaucracy also, often gets in the way, and doing something that might seem common sense, but is actually innovative, actually involves the taking of risk. When I think about my own, leadership philosophy, which I've, learned in the military, and I still kind of, pull that forward to today. It's lead by example, it's share risk with your team, and it's take care of your people. I found, those three principles. It doesn't matter if I'm, working on a board deck or if I'm in a sales cycle. You do those three things, you can get stuff done. And obviously, if you don't care who gets the credit, there's no limit, to the things that you get done. We're going a bit over on this topic. I just want to ask one more question about this, and it's because it's a gap that I see in the corporate sector. Leaders, managers don't necessarily understand the power of what I would call a commander's intent statement.
Right.
Can you give an example of where you've used commander's intent, why you used it, and why it was necessary?
Yes, and I think the framework, and I talk to business leaders all the time, both in the classroom and our executive education program, about commander's intent and the tools that you can use to help operationalize the commander's intent. So in Haiti, the commander's intent is we're here to save lives and mitigate suffering of the Haitian people. And then to further say, okay, what does that mean, and what are the parameters around that? That it saved lives, mitigate suffering of the Haitian people due to the earthquake. And so then we would come up with operational lines of effort, whether it be in providing medical care through putting up hospitals or bringing in a hospital ship, or providing potable water and food in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, so people weren't and there weren't riots over lack of food and water, to clearing rubble off the street. So every operational line was defining the priorities that we as a military were there to provide. So we didn't get off track doing stuff that were not mission essential to achieving what we were there to do. And so all the time, commanders would get requests from local Haitians, community leaders, saying, "Hey, I'd like for you to go over here and do this." And they would, say, just tie it back to what the commander's intent is, what our operational lines and priorities are, and what does success look like at the end of this for what you're doing. And I'll share a story with you that, and I'm going to put you over time even farther here. But after about 2 weeks of the earthquake, I was every day about 9 o'clock in the morning, I would leave our little compound area, which was next to the embassy, and go out and make visits, do battlefield circulation, if you will. You visit NGOs, visit our troops, find out what was going on. And I ran into a young engineer, paratrooper, 82nd Airborne Division lieutenant, who had just arrived at the 82nd, literally the week after New Year's. So he'd been in his unit all of 1 week. He hadn't even been to CIF to get all of his field gear yet, and he was alerted and came to Haiti with his platoon. So he was really very new to the division. And I asked him how things were going, if he had everything he needed to do his job. His job was to clear rubble off a main road that went from the airport down to the center of the city, where most of the deaths had occurred. He said, "Sir, I understand what the commander's intent is. I understand my purpose and task to clear rubble in order to allow humanitarian assistance. What I don't understand, though, is what is the end state? What does success look like for my platoon?" Mm-hmm. And it I said, and his company commander was standing a few feet behind him. And people told me later his company commander sort of tensed up when he asked that question, But it was a very good question, because we had defined an end state for us, but it was so, at our level, it made sense. But at his level, he said, "Sir, if we're going to clear all this rubble in all this city, I'll be here about 10 years. I'm not sure, I said, "Well, we don't want you here for 10 years, that's for sure." So we had to go back. I said, "Look, I need to think about this a little bit to define our end state a little bit clearer and more precise that will apply to you." So like most commanders, I put a bunch of smart majors in a room and said, "Okay, let's figure this out." And so they came up with a little bit clearer intent or end state, saying, "Hey, look, if you're doing what your task and purpose is by yourself, that's good. You're meeting your goals, but you're not meeting the commander's intent. What you need to do is, if you're doing it with one partner, that's better, but you need to do it with multiple partners, and you need to have a plan to transition what you're doing to one of those partners. And so we said, okay, you got to define that for us and come back to us and tell us what you need to do that. So I went back to see that lieutenant about 2 weeks later, and I said, how are things going? He said, sir, everything's going great. I understand everything. I understand my end state. And if you look out, you'll see about 100 Haitians in yellow shirts. They're all being paid $5 a day to clear rubble. I've got 4 program managers hired. I got one overall senior program manager we're going to hire to, and I suspect in a month's time, if you continue to give me about $1 million a month, we can turn over everything we're doing to this contractor we got working with us to do this. So that's an example of how I think the commander's intent can be operationalized, but having ways to find out where there are gaps in what you're trying to communicate from the highest part of your organization to the lowest part takes leadership and takes work to listen to feedback from folks.
Takes trust. Having the right organizational culture where a relatively junior person can tell a very high-ranking person unwashed feedback, and not fearing for position or reputation or anything like that. I'm going to move on to the next kind of phase of this. In your role at Emory, you've got a front row seat to a multitude of veterans who are approaching the transition or are actively transitioning to civilian life. And just by virtue of who you are and who I'm sure you've seen thousands of cases. If you could say 3 pieces of advice for a veteran who is approaching the transition to civilian life, what would those things be?
Thank you for that question, Jesse, because I have had a little time now. I transitioned, retired about 10 years ago, so I've had the privilege to work with a lot of veterans coming to get their MBA here at the Grizzetta Business School. And what I've sort of settled on is that first you need to reach out to mentors, friends, family, and discuss your transition. And I'm not saying this because I did this right, because I didn't. I mean, I think all veterans struggle as we transition, no matter at what point in time you do it and grade. First, reach out to mentors, friends, and discuss your transition, and make sure you have a network that can support you. And the second is just think about your goals and what will be your purpose beyond the military. One of the things I see all of us struggle with is, the military has given us a purpose. We may not have realized it when we initially joined, but we certainly realized the culture that we were part of, and the brotherhood, sisterhood that we were part of. It gave us a purpose, and we all joined that purpose, and we all sweated, and many of our veterans bled as a result of carrying out that purpose. And then when we leave the service, there's a little bit of a hole there, I think, a vacuum. And so you need to find out what that purpose and what you're going to do. That's going to give you the motivation to get out of bed every morning and go do it. And take a while to figure out what is that purpose, and it's a process, I think, and it may evolve over time, quite frankly, and adjust. And third is don't limit yourself to what you can do or you're really good at in the military. If you're something you really want to do, and have a dream to own a business or pursue a graduate degree, put yourself out there, use your network, and go for it. I mean, all of our veterans are very, very comfortable being uncomfortable in what we do in the military, right? We put ourselves out there all the time. So why not? Why not? Go for don't take the job that you're going to be really good at just because somebody's offering you that job and it's something you're going to be comfortable doing. If there's something you really want to do on a business, go for it. And there are those there in the veteran community that can help you. Just ask. So that's the three things: reach out to people, develop your network, discuss your transition, set goals, get a purpose, and go for your dreams.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree with all those, and I just emphasize, like, the first job that you get, post-military, like, there's a good chance that's not going to be your end all be all.
Right.
You're going to learn, you're going to iterate, you're going to, find out that you're interested in things that you didn't previously know about, and using those same skills, attributes that made you successful in the military will contribute to your success in the corporate sector. I want to ask one more, kind of question about the transition. At least in the United States and obviously elsewhere as well, the service members have experienced 20 plus years of conflict, and there's things that come along with that. Um, there's stigmas out there there are some problems that are real. I've come to believe that these are mostly just like maintenance issues. Just like you gotta change the oil on your car. Sometimes you got to do some work to make yourself better. What would you say to any veterans who are out there that are experiencing some difficulty related to their time in service?
Well, I think for all of us, again, regardless of where we're at in life and what point we got out of the service, I think the most simple, it seems almost to say, is to ask for help. Be willing to be vulnerable. I think vulnerability is something that many of us have a hard time with, possibly, but I think it's something that's really good leaders learn how to do, and put themselves out there and be vulnerable and ask for help from a friend, mentor, or battle buddy. And then those of us, reach out to folks as they're transitioning, those that we know, whatever, and just, be proactive in trying to help them. But as I said earlier, transition is difficult, and replacing that brotherhood and sisterhood and the climate, culture that we come from is quite frankly not. You're not going to replace it. Most of us will not find that replacement. So we have to find things that will fill that. And I think staying connected to those we served with is an important part of that, and helping one another get through it. And we all need someone we can talk to, with places where we can get help.
Excellent. Yeah, I think there's a variety of resources out there, and sometimes it takes a couple tries to find the right things that you need. But if you look, you'll certainly find what you need to find. At this point, Ken, could you, we're talking about from service to opportunities. Um, you've been involved in the leadership program at Emory for quite some time, and I understand that Emory University is launching a Master's of Business for specifically for veterans, and you're leading that charge. Could you talk a bit about that program, and the intent behind it, and frankly, like who should apply and who should they talk to?
Yeah. Well, the Masters in Business for Veterans program is something that's come about. One, first and foremost, to give credit where credit is due here, because we have a new dean, Dean Garrett James, who came to us from the University of Southern California at Marshall School of Business, and they've had the only other program like this in the nation for 10 years. And so he came with the simple question. Um, uh, would this be something that would be of interest to the veteran community? And is it something that we at the Rosetta Business School could do? And he asked me to look into it. And it was a fairly easy question to respond to, but I took some time to do some surveys and talk to the folks at Marshall, and came back with the what I felt when he asked the question would be the answer, but came back to say, not only do I think it could be successful, I think it's very much needed, because I had seen for 10 years veterans come through the MBA program, and getting an MBA is not what's needed for many veterans. It may not be what is, it may be that they want a lot of the business knowledge and courses, but they don't need the whole MBA, if you will. And so this program is much more tailored just for veterans and service members. They can still be on active duty. So anyone can apply if they have 3 years of military service, Guard, Reserve, active duty. And we asked that they also have been in a leadership role, because what we're going to give them is the business knowledge. Basically, all the core business courses that you'd get with an MBA, you're going to get with this Master's in Business for Veterans program. And you're going to get a transition and a career development content in the program. So we're going to help you think about transition. And this is for veterans who are getting out after 4 or 5 years. So whether you're a Spec 4, a sergeant, a staff sergeant, or whether you're a young a captain or major that's getting out after 4 to 8 years of service, it's for you. It's for the veteran who might get out at retirement at 20 years. We're talking to a lot of them. And it's also for the veteran who has been out for a while, but hasn't, but they got out, they went straight into a job. They may have changed jobs, like you mentioned, or they may be in a job where they found that they can't really progress and achieve what they want without some more core business courses. Or maybe they want to start their own business. They realize, hey, I need some really solid business knowledge, and this program can provide that for them. The other major thing you get out of this program is that you get a network. You get the Emory University Rosetta Business School alumni network, and you get the connections to all the business partners that we have that support the school, which helps us, which will help us obviously help these veterans find jobs if they're looking for jobs, or to connect to other veterans in the business community.
Excellent, thank you. And I've got wonderful things to say about Goizueta. I'm an alum from there. I think I paid $500 out of pocket for my MBA because of the Yellow Ribbon program and other things that Emory offers. So it's a great place to go study. Also talk just a minute around what my company does for veterans, Elastic. So Elastic is a software company. We're a high growth software company. We've got some exceptional technology. Essentially anything that has a search bar is probably powered by Elastic, and there's a couple different applications of that same technology across e-commerce, observability, or security operations. But lots of amazing things going on, especially with large language models and generative AI right now. We offer free training for veterans. You can get a very exceptional skill set that's in high demand for free. Number 2, we do SkillBridge internships. We are scaling that program up. And if you're qualified and if you want to work hard, we want you. So at this point, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing, and let's open it up for questions and answers for a few minutes. Any questions from the audience? Well, I guess to start off, Ken, when does is this new program, is that launching this fall?
We just opened up the application for the program. It will first day of class will be 15 May 2024. So we will start the first cohort in May 2024, and it's an 11-month program, or about a year, and they will graduate the following May, along with all of our other business school graduates.
Understood. So there's a bit of a runway before
Yeah.
this actually goes.
Yeah.
Um,
So this fall is, really marketing the program, accepting applicants, talking to a lot of applicants. We've done several networking events and recruiting events. We've done one here in Atlanta already. We've done one at the National Infantry Museum outside Fort Moore. We'll be doing them around the Southeast at major military bases. We'll do, of course, events online, and we very much appreciate you and Elastic for allowing me to come on and talk about the program today. So this is sort of like, just really informing veterans of this new opportunity that they can take advantage of if it fits what they need.
Yep. Yep. Excellent program and a great city. Atlanta is a great place to learn and to work. I see one question: are these opportunities only for the U.S. veterans? So at Elastic, it's not only for U.S. veterans. Uh, can in terms of this master's program, is it only for U.S. veterans, or is it open to other
Well, we
countries?
would certainly would take an applicant for a non-U.S. veteran. In fact, the Marshall School of Business, I think this last year got their first non-U.S. Veteran in the program. It's not. We don't anticipate having a large international population, but we certainly would take applicants from non-U.S. veterans.
Sure. And it looks like okay, we got another question, and Ken, this is for you. And it says, do you use your experience in global affairs in your role at Emory? Um, so I guess having commanded humongous organizations internationally, how does that translate to what you do today at Emory?
Well, the short answer to your question is yes. I've led several what we call global engagement modules at the business school. Of course, exposing our students to global business uh, is very important, and how to work in a global environment. And so we run courses that students can sign up for to go as part of that, go to a particular country. I've run one to Haiti, for example, where we took a group of students to Haiti a few years ago. We actually did a project with a nonprofit there. We helped the students actually help that company put their products online and sell them internationally. So we asked the students to actually work with businesses to do something when possible. So they were exposed to the business community in Haiti, and all the challenges that I took. Just this last January, I took a group of students to Colombia. We went to Colombia, Medellin, meeting with a lot of different companies in both cities, talking about what it's like for U.S. businesses to do business in Colombia and the environment, business environment there. So students, all MBA students for the most part, get the opportunity to take a global trip like that.
Excellent. Um, I think we're at about time for now. Our host is going to show the resources slide that has some points of contact that folks can